Hi, it's Daryl with another board gem. This week I'm going to cover a game that first came out in 1994, published by Hans im Glück in Germany, and it was called Auf Heller und Pfennig. I don't have that edition to show you, but it was re-released in the early 2000s as Kingdoms by Fantasy Flight Games in English, and it was published again in the early 2010s as Kingdoms. It's designed by Rainer Knizia. It plays 2 to 4 players, ages 9 and up, which I think is pretty fair, and takes about 30 to 40 minutes to play. Like most board gems I cover, this game is really simple to learn, and it has a real interactivity to it, which I enjoy. You're playing the other players, you're not just playing the game. So I'm going to show you how it plays first. I'm going to go over this edition, because this is my own edition, and this is the better edition to get, by the way. If you watch this video and you think, hey, I want to pick up a copy of that myself, if you come across this edition in any language, because it was reprinted all over the world, go for this one. This is by far the best edition to get. This other edition, there's thousands and thousands of copies of this edition floating around. If you were to get a copy used and you don't know which edition it is, it's almost certainly this edition. This has almost no trade value. So if you're okay to get a used edition, you can pick this up really easily, really cheap. But the presentation is not up to today's standards. It was a budget game even when it came out in the early 2000s. And it's even more of a budget game now. Presentation expectations, keep them pretty low. But this is a really nice edition, and this is the one I'm going to show you today. So first I'll show you how it plays, and then I'll talk a little bit more about why I think it's a board gem. To set up the game, place the board in the middle of the table between the players, and give each player a set of castles of their player color. These castles, the plastic castles that come in the 3rd edition, have a number of towers, which represent the castle's strength and how many points it will score at the end of a round. You'll see players start with 1 castle with 4 towers, 2 castles with 3 towers, 3 castles with 2 towers, and 4 castles with 1. In the previous edition, instead of plastic castles, they were towers with pips on them. The number of pips are equivalent to the number of towers in this edition. If you're playing with 2 players, you're going to use all your castles, remove one 1-tower castle from the game for a 3-player game, and remove another one for a 4-player game. Figure out a way to keep score. The game comes with these coins for keeping score. I think they're a bit of a hassle. I just use a pencil and paper at the end of each round, but do whatever you like. And then mix up all the tiles and place them face down in piles. Each player draws 1, looks at it, and keeps it in front of them to have a hand of 1 tile. Finally, there's a round marker here, and you're going to place it next to the 1. As you can see, there are 3 rounds. At the beginning of the game, the start player you can determine randomly, but for the 2nd and 3rd round, whoever has the highest score so far will start the round. And the goal is, of course, to have the highest score at the end of 3 rounds. In order to score points, you're going to want to have your towers, your castles, in the same row and column as some tiles. Most of the tiles have a number on them. They might show a +3 or a -1. The values range from -6 to +6, and there's more positives than negatives. These are the points that are added or subtracted for each tower a player has in that row or column. At the end of the round, you're going to total up the values on all the tiles in each row, and then again for each column. And whatever the value is, the total value for that row or column, each tower is going to score its owning player that many points. Right now, this row is worth 2 points, but this player has a castle with 3 towers, so far blue is scoring 6 points because each tower is scoring 2. Now on your turn, you must play something to an empty space on the board. That's your turn. You put something in an empty space. After 30 turns, the round will be over because the board will be filled up. And on your turn, you can place either a castle or a tile. If you choose a tile, you generally will draw a random tile from the draw pile, look at it, and then decide in any empty space to put it. Instead, if you have a tile in your hand, instead of drawing from this pile, you can instead just play the tile that you have in your hand. You don't draw a replacement tile afterwards. You just play that once for the round. If you don't have that tile anymore, then you would have to draw from this pile. Or you can place a castle. You choose any of the castles you still have in front of you, take it and place it on any empty space on the board. That's it. That's all you do on your turn. Place a castle or place a tile. If you can't do either of those things, which is unusual, it would mean you run out of castles early on, then you would pass. But you can't choose to pass. If there's an empty space and you have a free castle or you have a tile still to play, you must do so. You can't choose to pass. So after the starting player plays a castle or a tile, then it's the next player's turn in clockwise order, and so on. The round will end when all the spaces are filled up. Most of the tiles have a value between -6 and +6, but there are 4 or 5 special tiles. They're placed just like any other tile, but they don't have a point value in and of themselves. There's 2 mountain tiles, which have the effect of splitting a row or column. In effect, tiles on one side of a mountain don't contribute to the score of castles on the other side. You would basically score both sides of the mountain separately, as if they were 2 separate rows or columns. There's 2 of those tiles. There's 1 gold mine, which doubles the value of a row or column for good or ill. If a row has all negative values, then the gold mine is going to double those negative values as well. And the dragon. The dragon will cancel all positive scoring tiles that are in the same row or column as the dragon, specifically for scoring the row or column that the dragon is in. You don't cancel the tile entirely, it's just when you're calculating the value of the row or column for the dragon, you just ignore all positive tiles. You only look at the negative ones. The most recent edition also has a wizard. I believe it was a promotional tile for the previous edition. Any castle that shares an edge with a wizard is considered to have an extra tower for the purpose of scoring. This tile is optional. Previous editions didn't have it. It's new for this edition. You can play with it or without it. It doesn't make a huge difference. That's it. Then at the end, you're going to add up your scores for every row or column. That'll be easier to see if this board is filled up. So let's do that. Here's the end of a sample round played by 3 players. For every column and every row, we total up the bonuses and penalties to get a sum. And that sum is the number of points that each tower will score its player. I'll walk you through this sample. Starting with this column, 4 plus 4 is 8 points. Blue has played a 3-tower castle, so we'll score 24. Red played a 1-tower castle and a 2-tower castle. Also 3 towers, also worth 24 points. This column is worth 4. Each player has a 1-tower castle, so we'll each score 4 points. This column is worth 6 minus 3 is 3 points. Blue scores 3, green scores 9. This column is worth 5 points. Blue will score 15. This column has a dragon, and the dragon cancels out any bonuses in the same row and column. So it's as if this plus 5 didn't exist. Now this column has no numbers on it, so the score is 0. Red and green will both score 0 for their castles. And in this column, 6 plus 1 is 7, minus 5, 2. Green has 6 towers, so we'll score 12 points. Now we do rows. Starting with this row, 2 plus 4 is 6. Red will score 6 points for her 1-tower castle, but green has 6 towers, will score 36 points. This row is worth 12, 6 plus 6. Green has 3 towers, 36 points. Blue has 5 towers, 60 points. This row is 5 multiplied by 2 for the gold mine. Blue will score 10 points. Red, 30. Green, 40. This row has a dragon, so these bonus tiles are ignored and we only look at the penalties. In this case, this row is worth -5 points. Red's going to lose 5 points for this one towered castle. And finally, this row has a mountain. The effect of the mountain is tiles on one side have no effect on castles on the other side. It's as if you score them as two separate rows. No castles on this side, but this side has a castle, and the row is worth 5 minus 5, 0 points. Blue scores 0 points for this castle. So record those scores, either using the provided coins or pencil and piece of paper, and clear off the board and get ready for round 2. All the tiles come off the board and are mixed in with any tiles that were not drawn. When players who still have a tile in their hand return those, they all get mixed up. Everybody will draw a new tile. And players will remove their castles. Now, players will get back their one tower castles. But any castle with 2 or more towers is permanently removed from the game. And that player no longer is able to use that castle. So while green scored a lot of points for these castles, in the end, green is only going to get back this one. These ones are out of the game. And so while green scored a lot of points for them, green has much fewer pieces, castles to work with for scoring later in the game. So do that 3 times. Keep score for all 3 rounds. The start player for each round after the first is the player who has the highest score so far. After 3 rounds, total up the scores, player with the most points wins. That's it. You're ready to play Kingdoms. So this is the part where I explain why I'm covering this video, why I think of this as a board gem. The first thing I want to get out of the way, this is going to be a negative for some people. And I don't really think of it as that much of a negative, but you know yourself better than I do. The game is mathy, right? At the end of every round, you're going to total up the pluses and minuses in every column and every row. And for each of those rows and columns, you're going to calculate the score that each tower gets. And then, so you're basically multiplying that by the number of towers in each castle. And some people may find that arithmetic tedious. It's not hard math, but it does take some time at the end of the round. I personally don't find it any more tedious than keeping score after every turn in Scrabble. I think this is not really that big a deal, but it's up to you as to whether you think that at the end of the round that would be kind of a tedious thing to do. I use pencil and paper, really doesn't take much time. I would imagine using the coins, making change, that's going to be more annoying and take longer, but whatever works for you. I just want to throw that out there. That's really the only thing I think that I could see as a little bit of a negative. I mean, it's also what we would say is dry, right? You don't really get the feeling of being a king, running a kingdom. Yeah, okay, it's not that kind of thematic experience. I really don't hold simple games. I don't hold the lack of theme or a lack of cohesion in the setting with the mechanisms. I don't hold that against it for a simple game. For a more involved game, I really feel there should be a strong correlation between theme and setting and mechanisms. But for a simple game, it doesn't matter to me. So those are pretty much the only negatives I can think of out of the way. So now is the part where I'm going to mention the positives, and there are a few. So first, which is a common theme in this video series, it is easy to learn, easy to explain. I can teach this game to just about anyone. Little kids would obviously have a little bit of a problem with the math, but I would assume that an adult would be there to help with that, because it only really matters the score at the end. Even little kids can see a +6 is better than a +2, right? So they can still play intuitively. I like the dynamic aspect of this game, because a row or column that looks pretty good could become really bad later. Until it's finished, you don't know, right? You could have a +2, a +3, a +5. This is looking pretty good. Put down a big castle, but there's still empty spaces in there. Suddenly somebody plops down a -6, and you're just like, oh. And some people may not like that. They think that of that as a take that element. No. Okay, I don't like take that either. I don't like a game in which I think I'm going to score 5 points, but then somebody just plays a random card that I didn't know they had, and then suddenly I'm losing 20 points instead. I agree. I don't think that experience is fun at all. This game is different. When you put down a castle, you know what you're setting yourself up for. You could be setting yourself up for more bonuses later, but the other players may have negative tiles that they want to play against you. The negative tiles got to go somewhere. They're not going to hurt themselves, so of course they're going to hurt you. So it feels rather impersonal, right? Yeah, you're putting down a -6 or whatever, but you kind of laugh about it. You don't blame the other person. You know when you put down a castle that you're taking that risk. And that risk versus reward, that sense of opportunity, is really key in this game. Because you play a full 3 rounds, and most of the castles, all the high scoring castles, you only ever get to play once. So the key part of this game is identifying a good opportunity and kind of doing that calculation, risk versus reward. If I put down a high valued castle here, I'm going to be scoring well so far, but I haven't seen the -5 come out yet. If somebody has that in their hand or they draw that, I'm going to be getting hurt. So it's making those decisions and identifying the right times to play your high valued castles. The ones who can do that the best are the ones who are going to win. So I really like that aspect of it. And it is fun to hurt other people. I'm going to be honest with you. I asked my family, because it's a family favorite. I asked my family before this video and asked them what they liked about it. And that was one of the things they mentioned. It's just fun to hurt other people in a safe setting. Does that make sense? Again, that example I gave where you're doing the take that playing cards, would be like the Munchkin type of game. That could be really frustrating to a lot of people, and probably myself too. But again, I don't feel that here. Nothing is unexpected. Show people at the beginning of the game, these are the tiles that could be drawn. I might draw them, you might draw them, but most of them are going to be on the board at the end of the game. So before you put a castle down, decide whether the reward you're getting is worth the risk of maybe getting one of the negative tiles that we haven't seen this round yet. I want to talk a little bit about player range, because the game plays 2 to 4 players, and it plays fine on all that player range. I personally only like this game with 3 players. 2-player works fine, but it's a little tit for tat. There's no nuance. If I get a good tile, I'm playing it on myself. If I get a negative tile, that's going on you. And there's still room for kind of fun play, but like I said, it's a little bit, back and forth. And I don't find that quite as enjoyable. The 4-player game, the problem is this is one of those games in which there's the same number of turns regardless of how many people are playing. So a 4-player game, each player is going to get fewer turns per round. And that can be unsatisfying as well. But you do get a little bit of an aspect of working together on a row. Like I have a castle in a row and you also have a castle in a row. So let's work together to improve this row. And I feel like that part shines the best with 3 players. It just has the best of both worlds. You have the working together aspect, but you still have lots of turns to kind of see the round through. You have a lot of opportunity to do things. And when in a multiplayer game, like a 3-player game, you really start to, or at least in our family, we start to see a little bit of verbal back and forth, right? I wouldn't call it negotiation, but it's kind of pointing things out, right? Topics of conversation related to the game, right? If I'm in last place and you hurt me, I'm going to say, like, why are you hurting me? She's in the lead. You should be hurting her, right? Or like I said, if we share a row with a castle, then it was like, hey, why don't we work together on this and improve this row? And then maybe somebody goes, okay, I'm going to put a +5 here. That helps you. Remember that. I gave you those +5, so maybe help me out later. I understand for a lot of hobbyists, this kind of, it's not really negotiation. It almost seems unfair to call it that. But that little bit of back and forth, that conversation, might actually be a turnoff for some people. But for me, it's just evidence that the rules melt away and you're not just playing the game, but you're playing with other human beings. And that's an important aspect to me. Kingdoms is a game that me and my family often come back to. The original German edition came out around 94, and then we had the first Fantasy Flight edition that come out around 2003, And then the better one, this is the one I showed you, came out in, I want to say around 2012. So that's about every 9 years. I would love to see a new edition of this come out in 2021 or something like that. Having said that, the edition I showed you, oh, let me just grab it here. This one here. If you watch this video and you're curious at all about this game, you want to pick it up, and you happen to see this edition, just grab it. This is much less common than the other one. And the other one, like I said, the presentation is it really suffers, at least by today's standards. This is definitely the edition to get, and this has been printed in many languages, so hopefully you have an okay time to find this. I should point out that they made a sequel of sorts, Fantasy Flight and Reiner Knizia. I haven't played this, but I have it, and it's Beowulf the movie board game. I don't know if people remember that movie. I didn't find it all that memorable, but they made a board game about it, sort of. It's basically I wouldn't call it an Advanced Kingdoms, but it is a sequel. It's taking Kingdoms as a starting point and adding more. So there's kind of more special tiles. Each round the board is different, which I think is an interesting aspect. But I'll admit I haven't played this edition, and I love Kingdoms, but reading the rules to this, I didn't get all that excited about it. So, but your mileage may vary. But I just wanted to throw it out there. That's another option too. And this one also shouldn't be very hard to find. Also very simple and to learn, and doesn't have much value trade-wise. So something to keep in mind. That's pretty much it. Just wanted to share my thoughts on Kingdoms, why it's a family favorite, why I think it's a board gem. Thanks for watching. See you next week.